can't be torn apart. We are linked together, forging fire forever. We are linked together.
Everyone, happy new week and welcome back to a Monday evening masterclass. That's right, ladies and gentlemen, it's the Blackout Racing League. It's season 17, it's week number 10, and let me tell you, we have not got long left to go of this season. Only 3 weeks to decide who takes the ultimate honours and who will be left with a rather sinking feeling. All of that is to come, but as you can see, today, we are heading off to the land of the famished and then the equator. It's going to be a fun time. And you might think, it says sprint, so we have a sprint race. No. No, we're not. I hate to burst your bubble on that one, but no. That is not what will be happening. Instead, I'm being hustled and harried to get into the session. I'm sorry, I'm getting there. I'm in. Well, I'm not in, it's loading. You get the idea. I'm in. Everyone's inviting me. Jalen and Buck20 have invited me. I'm in. It's okay. Do not panic, my friends. This is the situ, though. Obviously, like I said, Hungary, Sprint, and Qatar. Sprints follow the format, obviously. So if you don't have another qualifying session straight after the sprint, it will do the same grid as you had at the beginning of the sprint race and take that into the main race. So to make our lives more efficient and combat catastrophe, which is what F124 is, we have decided here in the Blackout Racing League, I say we, they have decided that it will be a reverse championship grid 50% race around the Hungaroring, or it might just be a reverse 35%. Either way, it is reverse grid. So, the next question will be therefore, what does that mean for the grid? Well, first of all, look at this. Look at that flowing and fabulous man. That right there. Put him on your wall. Actually, don't. That's weird. Don't put me on your wall. That is me. And Mr. Magico made me. I know, unbelievable, isn't it? He's done an absolute sterling job. He made the starting graphics. He's made the standby graphics. Thanks for watching. Funny. No, he's made these graphics as well. Although, I will have to say, I've become suddenly very ginger. I don't know how that happened. I've caught the sun a bit too much. You all can understand. Actually, it's funny, because now I'm ginger. I can't actually catch... Nah, that's harsh, actually. I can't say that. But the point is, he made all of these absolutely fantastic graphics. Please go and follow him. He's at RD Magico on a Twitch, or Magico834 on a YouTube, which is on an internet. Go there, and your life will be infinitely better. So there you are. Like I was saying, though, reverse grid. What does it mean? Well, let me take you through the championship standings first, ladies and gentlemen. Timmelele is your championship leader. That comes as a surprise to no one who has been in touch with the series recently. He is leading by... oh, crikey. 53 points. To Thanasi, although one slightly woeful week. And that can all change in a blink of an eye. So don't count anyone out. Thanasi's P2 with 357 points. Milo P3 with 312. Stark P4 with 267. 12 points ahead of Tyrek in P5. Terziak is 6th with Buck 20 in 7th, crossing over the 200-point threshold last time out. Pathyman is 8th, Big Sam 9th, and Magico rounds out the top 10. Only a point ahead of J-Lane, and with J-Lane running consistently, Magico's got to score the big points in order to keep a top 10 finish in the championship going. But take all of those names that I've just said, flip them in reverse, because it all gets topsy-turvy in the land of a reverse grid race. Constructors-wise, though, it's where things are a little bit more enticing. Mercedes lead 540 combined points for their two drivers, Timmelele and Magico. But McLaren only 23 points behind. So, akin to real life, McLaren very much fighting at the forefront of the constructors. But they are finding themselves the hunter as opposed to being hunted, which makes it quite a fancy occasion. Speaking of the constructors' fight, what do we all think of Qatar? What did we all think of that race? I think the FIA all needs to be sacked. That's my opinion. And I say that in the nicest way possible. No, the penalties, well, fit the crime based on previous experience. People say it was really, really harsh. Yes, based on consistency over the season, yes, it was harsh. But, let's not forget, turn the clock back less than 10 years ago. Belgium, Kimi Räikkönen got a drive-through penalty for speeding in a yellow flag zone when Max Verstappen's ailing Red Bull was at the side of the track. 2017, I think it was, for Räikkönen. He got a 10-second stop-and-go penalty. And then drive-through penalties for speeding in the pit lane, they've been commonplace for a long time, but we haven't had any this season as far as I know. In fact, the only time, I think, or the only couple of times there have been speeding in the pit lanes, they've only resulted in 10 or 20-second penalties. So, like, I don't have an issue with them giving out penalties. I don't have an issue with them giving out that type of penalty. I just wish it was consistent. But, new race director. So, expect more of that. So, there you go. I think the one-place grid penalty for Max was absolutely ridiculous, considering most of the time it's just a fine, and they weren't even on a fast lap. So, a one-place grid penalty is just belligerent and bonkers. The not bringing a safety car out for 8 minutes with a loose mirror on the main straight and then playing games with yellow and green flags respectively was it was utterly insane. Completely and utterly insane. It's just the FIA running riot with power, but then again, what is new? I think also the there was a couple of other bits and pieces here and there. I think I've blazoned them out of my head because I can't be bothered to talk about them. There are better things to talk about, like the wonderful racing we are going to be witnessing very, very shortly. There are 15 people racing today. My God, we are back in the thick of it, aren't we? 2 Williams are here, 2 McLarens, 2 Mercedes. My husband Magico says, "Sai, no practice, very slow around these tracks. Why am I racing?" Because there is a constructors on the line and people will mess up. And if you just keep it on the road and you score the points, That'll do the constructors a world of favours. Think of it this way. You've done 2 constructors titles in a row now. This is your chance for a 3rd in a row in the constructors. How about that? How about that? And you can't say you didn't contribute to it, because you certainly have. So there you are. We are waiting to get underway with the first race of the day. Like I say, around the Hungaroring. Of course, in real life, a track where McLaren were 1 and 2. Not without controversy, because they decided to play, I don't know, shuffleboard between their 2 drivers. It was the most resistant game of shuffleboard I've ever seen. But ultimately, Lando did let Oscar Piastri through for his first Grand Prix win. Which, in hindsight, maybe Lando should have been allowed to win it, given that he was Max's closest challenger and closest challenger for a very long time. But that's just me. Anyway, all conversations for another day. Ladies and gentlemen, we are a fleeting matter of moments away from the first race of the day. Sorry, I've just read a work email here. Do you know what I find really funny about work sometimes? You know what I find really funny about it? Sometimes you get an email which, like, your boss types out what you should do and how you should do it. And then the amount of text they put in, you think, well, actually, the amount of time you took to write that email and tell me what to do in the first place, you could have just wrote the email to them and sent it. Just saying. I'm just saying. People hate this man. Got strong in 3 days using secret techniques. Click to find out how. Just have a galactic brain. That's probably why. Now, enough beating around the bush. Although that is quite a tasty club night. Holy mackerel, it is Great Britain. We are in monsoon conditions in Magyar Nagyidij. Of course the Paddock Club have all ran away. They're too rich to get wet. We've only got 1 lone Red Bull. The cartel of Derek Dirkleton. It's the lone Red Bull driver. Apparently he sent Jamie Tarquin out on an assignment. No idea what that could be. But I'm sure it's very fun. It will be, I believe, only 25 laps, considering it's absolutely pelting it down with rain and depression. Hopefully it will not spell depression for a lot of the drivers, but could spice up things at the top of the championship. More to the point, it could also see a surprise winner. Or maybe not. Maybe Thanasi, considering how strong he is in the wet, he'll probably steamroll everyone. But I'm willing to be proven wrong. 5 red lights in monsoon conditions in Magyar Nagyidij. Lights out and away we go. 2 kick Saubers line up on the front row. But look at the start Vulcan's got. Maximus flies off the line like a bullet from a gun. Vulcan's got a great start, but there's Dirkleton on the inside, breaks super early, and J-Lane comes blazing down the inside. An optimistic and absolutely, well, it's a sensational move from the V-Carb. Everyone trying to navigate through the spray and through the corners. Magico's dive down the inside of Vulcan. That's a lovely little move there, but then slides it on the exit. Compromises his momentum. He's fishtailing all over the place. Just keeps out of the barrier. Not before sending polystyrene confetti everywhere. It's Slam ahead of Maximus, ahead of J-Lane, buck 20 in 4th. Thanasi's already up to 7th. Holy Christ. Call him the second coming. He knows how to tread on water. Down the inside, parting the seas. Through goes the Williams driver. It's wonderful from Thanasi. Already up to P6. And his almighty ascension very much continuing. The track practically looks like sheet ice given my graphic settings. Probably not a good thing, but, you know, we're going to have to deal with it. I'm sorry. Slam in the lead. Maximus in P2. They're going to have to work very, very hard to keep a charging Thanasi behind, who we are soon to be riding on board with now. He's got the Red Bull of Dirkleton ahead, looks to the outside line, a flick of the steering wheel. Vintage Fernando Alonso, but gets a supreme switchback on the exit. It's a drag race all the way down towards turn number 1. And the Williams pulling slightly ahead, asserting its authority, and then down the inside goes Thanasi, chasing the championship lead, and it's the perfect start to proceedings. Up to P5, a little bit of a gap, as Stark is also on the move. Through on Vulcan he goes. The V-car plummeting down the pecking order. And contact with the Aston Martin of Terziak. Timmelele tries to find an avenue. Alas, the avenue will close itself. Vulcan remains in P9. Championship leader on a chase. Actually, nearly nips the back. Gets very close and personal with the diffuser of the V-carb. And then a snap of oversteer for good measure. That'll invite Milo if he's not careful. Although Milo probably compromised his own momentum, taking avoiding action. So that's not even slightly ideal. But 20 looks to be the man, potentially on the move. But he's got a very, very hungry shark behind him. Hammerhead style. And I'm not talking about the flatness of his head. I'm talking about his predatorial instincts. Although Buck 20's going to have to wait. He's being squeezed onto the grass by J-Lane. Skates over the curb, and it's an open goal for the Williams driver to slide on through to P4. Now he has to deal with the ever-aggressive V-carb of J-Lane. Fighting to keep it in podium contention. But surely resistance is futile. We saw just how much car control, how poised, how precise the man chasing the championship lead is. It's a fastest lap. It's ERS deployment. It's down the inside for the Williams driver. The line was slightly cordoned off. He was made to fight for it, and fight for it he did. It's gladiatorial instincts from a great, great driver in the Blackout Racing League. And his rapid ascension continues. Timmelele, meanwhile, championship leader and third place in the championship. Milo have managed to get past Vulcan. He's now got a big swimmer for company. And given his name, he absolutely adores the conditions. The Aston Martin ace biding his time. Really, at the end of the day, all you need to do is wait for a mistake. As Terziak gets past Dirkleton, Big Sam could look to the inside of the chicane, shows the nose. Force your opponent into a mistake. Anything is possible. Thanasi then on the back of Maximus. Got to get a move on because J-Lane will be all over him. Should he not get through? Contact made as he looked to go down the inside of the right-hander. It was ballsy and boisterous and ultimately too bonkers for proceedings. Has to now hold it round the outside of J-Lane. Great racing room and respect between the two of them. Through the penultimate corner, they slide and scurry their way through. Thanasi does hold position in P3. Stark has caught up to the back of this train as well in the Ferrari. The prancing horse with a spring in its step in the early stages. But surely another move on the horizon. The Scuderia Scarlet Ferrari takes the fastest lap. The wonderful Williams goes down the inside of the Stabilo highlighter. Ultimately, there can only be so many pieces of positivity that the Kick Sauber team can take, because the Williams man is on the prowl, up to P2 in just 4 laps, and looking to prize the lead away with only a fifth of this race gone. Buck 57, meanwhile, Thanasi's teammate, he's been on the move. He's past Vulcan. Big Swimmer's got through. Buck 57's got through, and Pathiman is here for this wonderful occasion. Great traction up towards the left-hander and easily breezes past into P13. Then it was just my husband, Magico. The last one looking for a gobbling of another man. You bastard. Back to the front. I'm sick. I can't believe what I'm seeing. Thanasi all over the diffuser of Slam. Can't tell from the camera angles. For a moment, I thought he'd nearly half spun it, but turns out I was completely wrong. Shows the nose to the inside. Running relentless and running riot at this early stage. It's a statement of intent. He knows he's got a championship to chase down. Timmelele still languishing down in P10. The more that Thanasi can extend the gap and assert the dominance on the rest of the field, the more the momentum can just grow and grow and grow. ERS being used. Resistance is futile. Down the inside goes Thanasi. And from the back of the grid, although Slam with a switchback, I'll tell you what, great opportunistic instincts from the Sauber driver. Thanasi will have the inside line for the sweeping left of turn number 3. And that is all she wrote. This race has a new leader with only a fifth of the race gone, and from the back of the grid, Thanasi up 13 positions. My God. Absolutely fantastic. Just carved through the field like a hot knife through butter. And now he's got to stretch his legs, build the gap, and never look back. At least that is the plan. Behind, though, things are getting interesting. Buck 20's made a mistake somewhere, because he's now down in P7, behind Terziak, who just did take the fastest lap of this Grand Prix. Stark closing in on J-Lane. He, in the V-Carb, closing in on the highlighter. Contactless transaction or the highlight of your night? I leave the choice up to you. Meanwhile, Timmelele slightly being bottlenecked. I believe he's actually behind Milo for a little bit. Has got back past him, but now has the Red Bull of Dirkleton in his sights. And bloody Nora. Thanasi takes the fastest lap by 1.4 seconds. And then Buck 20 says, no you. We can't all be perfect. Let's put it that way. Timmelele in the slipstream then could think about an audacious dive down the inside. Certainly thinks about it. But the bravery on the brakes, not enough to disrupt the rhythm of the Red Bull ahead. And now has to wait for another opportunity. It's just more compromise he doesn't need in this early stage. As always, though, time flies when you're having fun. And here in the commentary box, already lap number 6. Buck 20 on the back of Terziak. Purple sector 1. The rain just loosening up and the track getting faster and faster. A call for intermediates possibly and potentially to be made as we go on. Thanasi building that gap ever more, up to 1.5 seconds, although not a great exit through that particular section. Did dip down slightly, and then just begins to stretch his legs. Doesn't need to overdrive it. He knows what he's got to do to keep himself in contention with 3 weeks to go. But Terziak and Buck 20, such is the pace of this dynamic duo that has just developed. They are now on the back of this train. Slam technically at the head of it, but it's Maximus leading J-Lane, just teetering on the edge of a second. Stark in P5. I will be interested to see who dares to pull the pit lane trigger first, because it does look like it is lightening up, and so it is. Times tumbling thick and fast. A 1:31.3. Anyone else going to usurp that? The answer is absolutely not. Timmelele, though, could finally be on the move. ERS being used down the main straight. Another opportunity to dive down the inside. Again, late on the brakes. Space left by Dirkleton. Tim has the chance to go down the inside. Can't get the exit sorted out. And Tim, once again, being frustrated behind the Red Bull. And Milo dives down the inside. Contact made. Milo saves the snap caused by the suckering to the side pod. Ultimately remains in P10. But Derek Dirkleton causing a bottleneck himself. Big Sam and Buck 57 catching up to the back of the train and going very wide for that matter. A dry line is developing. And Stark is going hunting. The Racing Bull. Of J-Lane up ahead for the taking. Stark looking ever more menacing in the mirrors. Again looks to the inside. As that dry line keeps on developing. Like I say, perhaps a chance for the intermediate tyres here. And if you get it at the right time, well, let me tell you, you will be instantaneously and infinitely quicker than you would be if you were just trying to wear down a set of wet tyres. Now into the 1:30s we go, as Thanasi just breaches that particular barricade, but surely moves to be made. Stark with not a great exit out of the final corner, and Terziak showing Timmelele potentially how it is done. Down the inside goes the Aston Martin ace. A little bit of a wobble, a shimmy and a shake to try and throw the Ferrari of Stark off kilter. Stark will have the inside line, holds it and makes contact. Another half spin as he makes contact with the side pod of Terziak. Perhaps should have been afforded more space, perhaps took too much speed into the corner initially. Whatever the case, it's no consolation. It's a couple of positions lost for the Ferrari man. In other news, Timmelele still not past Dirkleton. Not entirely sure how. It looks to the inside. Got some great traction out of the chicane. But look at this. 4 cars being held up. Very, very, very much so by the Red Bull. Dirkleton won't mind one bit. He's keeping the track position. Timmelele saying enough is enough, but still denied at every possible opportunity by Dirkleton. The cartel is the answer. Thanasi continues to extend the margins. 3 tenths faster than his previous fastest lap, as Timmelele still being held very frustrated. And irritation stations! He left the inside line open. Milo accepted it. And now, Big Sam's on the outside, potentially using the slipstream of the McLaren. It could be a dive bomb of frustration from Timmelele down the inside. Has he taken too much speed? No, he hasn't. It's actually left Milo exposed to the big swimmer behind. Look to the right, there he is. Can he carry it round the outside? Milo has the nose in front. And as we all know by Formula 1 standards, that means he'll have the position. Buck 57 looking very interested in getting an overtake done. Now exposed himself to Pathiman behind. It is all change and all absolute action here at the Hungaroring. Gap at the front now, 6 seconds as Maximus gets within a second of his teammate. Can't say I have any idea of what the weather is doing. Actually, looks like the rain's got slightly heavier now. So, still nowhere near intermediate range, or considering intermediates for that matter. As J-Lane goes very, very wide in the background, looking for that outside line. Actually, it's kind of paid off. We do see some pit lane activity. Here we go then. Terziak, Buck 20, and Starks pulled the trigger as well. It looks like they're going to be going onto the intermediate tyres, and so they are. The pit crews get to work, and the green machine heads out of pit road first. Tim looking to the outside of Dirkleton. Not entirely sure why he didn't go down the inside, but there you are. Again, Dirkleton puts up a stout defence. The gap now to the next car of J-Lane, 10 seconds. It is not going the way of Timmelele. It certainly is not. Another good exit through the right-hander, but perhaps should have just let his momentum loose for a few seconds if he knew the Red Bull was going to struggle, and then have a really strong thrust up the hill towards the left-hander, but just a little bit too overzealous. Now comes the chance again towards the chicane. He's squeezed to the inside, but by the time we make the chicane, finally Tim gets through, but Dirkleton cuts the chicane. He'll feel like he had nowhere left to go. And once again, Tim is going to grow in frustration and grow some more. Dirkleton does concede the position in the end, and rightly so. Tim finally has broken free of the shackles of the Red Bull, but diving down the inside goes Dirkleton. It was late and it was a lunge, and it forced Timmelele wide. Milo goes through once again, and if Timmelele wasn't aggrieved by any of the action before, he will not be happy in the slightest. Into the pit lane come the McLaren and the Mercedes cars for a set of intermediates, I have absolutely no doubt. As oh no! Some alien activity has not assisted the Mercedes man up, ascension towards the front of the field. Now we can get a grasp of what the pace of the intermediates is like. .1 seconds the gap. Let's keep on watching that as through the left-hander they go. Again, gaining some more time, and then through the right-hander, gaining 0.2 of a second. Tell you what, the effects of the intermediate tyres are pretty profound. I think it's about time to strap on the inters if you haven't already. Perhaps some of them, though, trying to brave it out because they know it'll be dry later in the race. So really, putting those wet tyres through the ringer. Only time will tell. Now gap down to 4.7 seconds. To Dirkleton. What was an over 6.5 second gap as the race leader peels into the pit lane. And it was about time too. There was no denying the move had to be made. The call had to be done. Maximus in all of that by being undercut by Terziak and Buck 20. He's lost a couple of positions. Slam, that issue could be even more exacerbated. As out of the pit lane with a clean pit stop comes the Williams of Thanasi. He will rejoin in the lead of this race. I have absolutely zero doubt about that. Dirkleton coming down the straight will inherit P2. But Thanasi still holds the lead. And there's your confirmation. Fastest lap of the race is a 1:28. We are firmly in the thick of things. Slam, does he get out ahead of J-Lane? Answer is yes, he does. Just slots ahead of the contactless transaction maestro. And so Kick Sauber hold provisional 4th and 5th in this race. Timmelele, by the way, is down in P13. I know I keep focusing on him. I do apologise. I will focus on some other people, like Patherman for a second, because he's getting very close and personal with Buck 57. But yeah, I think we can all probably quite rightly say Timmelele is not going to be best pleased with how things have gone so far. Particularly Dirkleton's lunge. It was audacious. It was too late. It was a day late, a dollar short, as one Martin Brundle would have said. And ultimately, it's no consolation. Timmelele down in P13. I'm sure there'll be a great conversation about it. But let's not talk about that now. Pathyman is looking to try and make improvements in this race. Got the Williams of Buck 57 for company, who does go slightly wide. Carries some great momentum out of the corner. Shows the nose slightly. Can just throw your opponent offline that little bit more to make life easier for you, but not to be. Got a couple of corners to go on this one. And with a good exit, carry loads of momentum in. Late apex it, straighten the car out. Banzai it through as Banzaiing down the inside. Went Buck 20. Dirkleton will switch back and try and hold on, but the traction is just too tremendous. And so, through goes the McLaren driver into P2 of the Hungarian Grand Prix, as we are just over the fulcrum point here at the Hungaroring. Dirkleton now has Terziak to contend with. And any time Terziak doesn't lose would be more than welcome for him, because he knows how ailing that Red Bull is. He's just going to wait to go down the inside. It's child's play. It's absolutely candy from a baby stuff. Down the inside, the Flying Scotsman goes. And with fresh intermediate tyres, you always knew that was going to happen. The air of inevitability has certainly been cleared as Terziak breezes through into P3. And now it's the Kick Sauber boys' turn. Through the right-hander. Look at the difference. Saw the mid-apex speed. I'm half surprised Maximus didn't career into Derek Dirkleton. It's mad how much difference of traction there is. Again, Dirkleton probably waiting for either a safety car or, there you go, 1:26.7. Jesus Christ. He's either waiting for a safety car or he is waiting for the dry period to come along. Maybe hold some track position from there. Or maybe just frustrate. I don't know if his sole mission is frustrating Tim in this race. Maybe it is. But Maximus does hold the outside. Switches to the inside. That's a lovely little switch. From one side to the other. The duck and weave from Maximus and Slam. Both Kick Saubers in one fell swoop. Ascending to P4 and 5. J-Lane capitalises on this particular eventuality. Up to P6 he goes. Stark now suckering down into the slipstream. Doesn't even need it. On the outside, deploying all the battery he can. Dirkleton will hold the inside, but it's easy for Stark to sweep around the outside. Run rings around the wet-shodden Red Bull runner. And into P7 goes the Ferrari faithful. Timmelele, in other news, making progress. Now on the back of Milo, once again sliding through the right-hander. There is no denying Tim has got pace. No denying that whatsoever. Right on board with the Mercedes, man. Just to kind of assess the situation a little bit more. Not rub salt into the wounds. That's not what I'm here to do, but I am here to make my opinion on proceedings in terms of racecraft and whatnot. I was in this position. I was a champion like you once. Towards the right-hander. Uses a bit of battery. Any kind of pressure you can put on the car in front is not a bad thing necessarily. But you can't be compromising your own line too much. Milo goes wide at the penultimate corner. Tim just has to hit the apex nice and late, straighten the car, get on the power as soon as possible, but gets a snap of oversteer that just takes him offline a bit too much, compromises the flow, and so has to wait another lap and fight another day. It's all learnings, though, as long as you're in the right headspace. All of this is learning in terms of the context of rampant racecraft. Terziak deploying every single morsel of pace he has to try and get on the back of Buck 20. And there's a visualization of just how hard the Aston Martin ace continues to push. Not doing his gap interval a world of favours, but it's certainly proof in the pudding for the Flying Scotsman. Will feel like things haven't gone his way even slightly in recent times. A podium today would put any worries to rest and get him back on the right track. Kick Sauber extending their advantage away from these two. And Stark will do anything he can. A potential to go down the inside, but no. J-Lane defends successfully. Holds a narrow line. The momentum just not favouring the Ferrari. Holding it for as long as he can, but a good last corner from J-Lane once again. Just takes him away enough from the Ferrari. And so, Mr. J-Lane lives to fight another day. Meanwhile, we're going to have a pretty big visualization as Dirkleton aggressively cuts to the inside to get any kind of morsel of cooling on his tyres. But, I mean, the gap's come down by 8 tenths in a corner as we have a time penalty. Our first time penalty of this race. I was about to say everybody's kept it clean and it's been 16 laps. Finally, someone has fallen foul to the track policemen and policemen women. And that is Buck 20 in the McLaren. Through the left-hander they go. It's just absolutely, it's not even close. It's intergalactic proportions of pace compared to the wet tyres for the intermediate runners. Through goes Buck 57 in quick succession. Pathiman breezes past. Milo and Timmelele are next. And Dirkleton can try and fight it as much as he wants to, but ultimately, on this compounder tyre, it's not going to happen for him. Milo flying through the left-hander, could have thought about a move into the fast right-hander. Ultimately thinks better of it. There's a right-hander coming up very, very soon. Will Dirkleton think about defending the inside? The answer is he slides through the corner. Milo taking a rather conservative approach. Again, that will probably frustrate Timmelele more than please him, and it will frustrate him even more because Big Sam's got through again somewhere. It is not going his way, as trying to run round the outside goes Milo, ultimately with a bolstering of the battery, deployment of the ERS. Through goes the McLaren man. Timmelele trying to go round the outside of Big Swimmer. You won't get through there, my friend. But he will get through with the superior momentum. To the outside he goes. Trying to get past Dirkleton on the intermediate tyres. This time, surely it's signed, sealed, delivered. And Dirkleton's been sent into a half spin. In some ways, Tim will feel like that's karma for earlier. But ultimately, it was neck and neck stuff. Inch perfect until the very last moment. And, I mean, more to the point, surely it's time to get off the wet tyres. I don't think there's anything else to say. Please, Dirkleton, save yourself. The dries aren't happening. Unless a one-stop for the wet tyres is some kind of masterstroke. I don't know. Who knows? Thanasi just controlling his pace up at the front of the field. 10.6 seconds the gap. And at the moment, at least, as far as I know, yep, fastest lap of the race. Although the only person that can get remotely close is Buck 20. Less than 2 tenths off the fastest lap of this race. This, of course, everyone's personal best, as opposed to their last lap, which is just not fun, really, is it? It's not fun for the Red Bull, man. 131.5. As I've said, the only person still on the wet tyres. And is ultimately going 5 seconds a lap slower than some of the cars out on track. On average, about 3.5 to 4 seconds slower a lap. I don't know what to tell you. Change onto intermediates. You'll have more fun. This man's having fun, though. He loves the wet conditions, and it looks like... No, I thought the rain was lightening off, but it's not. There is certainly a drier line developing constantly as this race goes on. But it doesn't look like it's going to get to that dry point unless the rain does indeed dissipate. It's getting just lighter and lighter incrementally. As again, it was a purple sector 2 for the Williams driver, so... I was saying he's controlling the pace, but he's going to cross the line and potentially do another new fastest lap. And there it is. A 1:26.432 for the Williams man. And the dominant drive certainly continues. Buck 20 looking to get a 3-second gap. So far, he's proving it is certainly possible. Slam has got a great exit. It's Kick Sauber versus Kick Sauber. Highlighter versus Highlighter, and ultimately Slam steals the spotlight. Down the inside he goes and takes that narrow line, stops Maximus from having a chance of doing the cutback, and Slam breezes through into P4. But the two Kick Sauber boys, P4 and 5, Stark was nigh on alongside J-Lane. Any more alongside, he would have felt that was done and dusted, but not to be. As Vulcan gets through on Dirkleton, he's finally bit the bullet. He's gone on to the intermediate tyres. He has heard my calls. Never mind, he's gone... Oh my god, no, he's actually cooked. Dirkleton has actually cooked. Never mind, welcome to the dry period. He's gone straight onto the softs. And now, we shall soon find out if it was the right call, although a big bout of understeer and a plethora of wheel spin as he gets out of turn number 1. Of course, the tyres stone cold. He'll try to get any kind of temperature into them as he darts through the left-hander. Ultimately, it looks to be still too early. Just a bit too much grease out on the track. One lap later or two, and perhaps Dirkleton will have pulled the blinder. Lap number 20 of this Hungarian Grand Prix. There's been thrills, there has been spills. There has been plenty of brave pills out here at the Hungaroring. Ultimately, though, it's this eventuality that sees the championship leader currently in P11. Spent a large amount of this race behind the Red Bull of Derek Dirkleton. Was hyper-aggressive with a lunge, sent Timmelele off track. And then more aggression between the Mercedes and the Red Bull. Some things never change. Mercedes and Red Bull being aggressive with one another. Glad to see something hasn't changed from real life. Ultimately, Tim finds himself P11. Dirkleton in P15. The only one that's made the gamble to go on softs. And ultimately will still get a point out of this race. 2.5 seconds the gap. Buck 20 is slowly but surely extending it to Terziak. He's got to get a bit of a move on here. He knows that P2 is for the taking. Not the most substantial difference in the world, but Stanasi sets another new fastest lap of this Grand Prix. I still see some spittles of rain here and there, as there's a yellow flag for a brief moment, as Tim, I think, has made a mistake. He's dropped 3 seconds behind Milo. Dear, oh dear. As Buck 20's come into the pit lane, he's now deciding soft tyres. Okay, here we go then. I wouldn't do that if I were you. Dirkleton's still losing about 5 seconds, pretty much at will per corner. So I don't think it's time at all to go onto the soft tyres, but I'm willing to be proven wrong. Let's find out. Here comes Buck 20. Can he stop the car? No. No, he can't. And Pathiman's made a slight error of judgment as well. Buck 20 has a front row seat. Timilo diving down the inside. Through he goes. Oh, no. So Dirkleton's caught up quite a lot of time. He's been passed by the leader. He's been lapped. But I want to actually see if he has that pace now. If he can keep up with Thanasi, then it is time. Timmelele, though, through Magico goes on the inters. Has Tim got the pace on the soft tyres as Magico goes astronomically wide towards Georgia in comparison. Sliding and slaloming off the track goes Sir German, the championship leader. Stark now with a 3-second time penalty. He too went onto the soft tyres. It is all action in the pit lane. ultimately, there needed to be no action. Because at the moment, the soft tyre runners are still losing time. Through the right-hander, again, a snap of oversteer. The track's still not ready. It's still too greasy out there. Drivers, tune in. I have all the intel. I'm your eyes in the sky for this sort of thing. Finally, though, through the final corner, Buck 20 gains half a second, and now it could well be time to strap on the slick tyres, as there's been a mistake for someone up ahead. Yellow flag for the V-carb of J-Lane, luckily pointing in the right direction still, and on he will carry. That's not ideal in the slightest. Buck 20 through turn number 1 again, though. Still can't find any traction at turn 1. It is bone dry at the final corner. How interesting. Visually, you can't see it, but last corner and whatnot. A few places on this track, it is completely bone dry, and Buck 20 can take advantage of proceedings. But in other places, like turn number 1, there is absolutely no grip at all. So still, it is not that time. Still, those who have been patient and waited on the intermediate tyres are bearing the brunt, and Thanasi continues to fly faster and faster with ferocious lap times. A 1:25 now. He loves this kind of race, though. He loves the wet conditions. Abs can't get enough of it. It's where he thrives. He excels in this kind of scenario. And so we're seeing it. 17.5 seconds almost to his nearest competitor of Terziak. Another purple sector on the track, getting better and better. It is really only a matter of time before slicks are the way to go, but the times that the drivers have chosen that have peeled in to put on those tyres, alas, it was the wrong call. And so, look at this. Don't scratch your eyes. Kick Sauber 3rd and 4th in this race. And they don't have to do anything. They can just keep it pointing in the right direction, and they will claim a podium and 4th place. A huge haul of points for the Stabilo highlighter team. And a good kick up the backside for the rest of the grid. Spons. Pathiman looking to pack a punch as he's at to purple sector 1. Basically getting better with whoever's last on the track. Buck 20, 4.2 seconds the gap behind Pathiman. And are those soft tyres getting into their own? Well, Thanasi goes 3 tenths faster. A 1:25.393. Just chipping away constantly. And his best time, no, Pathiman with the half spin. Does manage to keep it in the right direction, but hits the wall. But no external damage, but certainly emotional damage. That was not the ideal scenario, and would you believe it? With 2 laps to go, DRS has been enabled. And that means, in universal terms, get into the pits, fit on some slick tyres, you're welcome. So now we shall see the ramifications of that effect. Big Sam peeling into the pit lane. I probably wouldn't have done that if I was him. I'd have tried to keep track position, given where I am. I don't know, it's just my opinion. Race leader, 33 points to his account at the moment. Depending on what the pace of the slick tyre runners is, which I imagine will be quite substantial. Can't really pit, though. There it is. Fastest lap on the slicks. 1:24.045. The crossover has well and truly come alive. But it's too little too late. But, oh no, J-Lane! J-Lane spun on the infield. And all of that work to keep in the top 5 has been completely nullified. Through Buck 20 goes, through Pathiman goes. Across the line went Thanasi. It wasn't the fastest lap of this race. At least I don't think it was. I've forgotten what button it is to check now. Yeah, he didn't go faster. Well, it is time for the slick tyres, but it's the last tour of the track, and the Kick Saubers are sorting out the podium positions. They've got no competition behind. This is just for all honour and glory in the green machines. Big Slam will have ERS all the way to turn number 1. Maximus goes wide, half spin, and Slam will accept the invitation graciously, but not before Maximus deploys that battery. He won't give up that podium position easily. contact between the Kick Sauber drivers as they slip and slide, looking for any morsel of traction. They have found it. And so Maximus holds P3, Slam in P4. Up ahead though, heading through the final sector. To say it's a dominant drive is an understatement. From 14th on the grid up to 1st in basically a handful of laps. A man who has excelled in these kinds of conditions. It's the most splendid of scenarios to thrust him back into true championship contention. Thanasi wins the Hungarian Grand Prix in convincing style. We have to wait an absolute eon for the next driver to cross the line. Even so, a consistent and commendable drive from the Aston Martin ace of Terziak. Across the line he goes as Turkleton reverses across the line. Terziak takes home P2. The Kick Saubers were fighting to the end, but ultimately there can only be one that stands on the podium. Maximus claims a podium for Kick Sauber. Slam takes home P4. Buck 57 in P5. Milo 6th. Buck 20 in 7th, demoted to 8th when penalties are applied. J-Lane in 9th. Stark takes the fastest lap. We wait to see what Timmelele can do if he can take a fastest lap at the end for some kind of consolation. At the moment, it's 5 points to his name. Could be 8 when he crosses the line. Is it going to be more? It is more for Timmelele. It is a consolation. It limits the damage somewhat, but it is a race weekend to forget for the Mercedes man. Big swimmer P12. We wait for Mr. Magico to round the final corner, cross the line and claim a solitary but still solid 2 points for the McLaren team. And that will do it. Whew. That will do it. Ladies and gentlemen, your driver of the day, and you can't really ignore that. You can't really... Well, actually no. It's for a feel-good story, Kick Saubers get it for me. They were at the front of the grid, I will admit, and the reverse grid did help them out. But they had proper pace. You can't deny that. They had good pace all the way through the race. Only a handful of drivers that ultimately were faster or on the same level. But no one could stop this man. One at the beginning of the season had what felt like an almost insurmountable drought. But when he starts winning, you just can't stop him. Thanasi on the top step again. It is the most sumptuous of scenarios for the Williams driver. It's a 22-point cut in the championship. And one he can be very, very proud of. Kudos where it's due as well to Terziak and to Maximus, our other podium dwellers. Kept consistent, kept out of trouble, and that's ultimately what paid dividends. And that's what mattered most. Slam in P4 as well. Huge congratulations to him. And Buck 57 in P5. That makes the constructors rather interesting. Because that means Williams would have scored 45 points. Mercedes not scoring a huge amount. I think only 10 points. So a 35-point cut down to Mercedes. McLaren scoring strong as well. 3 teams have properly put themselves at the forefront now. We've got a triple threat for the constructors all of a sudden. At the flick of a switch. And suddenly, it all becomes rather nail-biting. Race number 1 down then. And there was no stopping Thanasi. Absolutely no stopping him at all. It was a trouncing of biblical proportions. One that the All-Father could simply only stop and stare to admire. Soon, though, we cross over the pond. Very large pond. Actually, no, we don't even cross over a pond. You can get it through there. It's landlocked, isn't it? No, it's not. It's not landlocked. Qatar's not landlocked, is it? I don't know. My geography's terrible, but the point is you can just drive to Qatar from Hungary. Don't know why that would be your favourite pastime, but that's, you know what, if it is, I'm not going to judge you. Qatar is next. Like I said, I've talked about the real race weekend at the beginning. I'm not going to talk about it anymore because the FIA are a bunch of clowns. One place grid penalty, done. Bunches of other bits, and well, the mirror thing was just the worst for me. and also the games they were playing with the yellow and green flags. So, there you go. I also saw people getting annoyed that, oh, Max, all he wants to do is not have a fair fight. He wants to catch people out on technical. Lads, they're competitors. If they have any kind of advantage, if they have a whiff of any advantage that they can absolutely assassinate to oblivion, of course they're going to use it. That's the aim of the game. As a competitor, that's what you do. Ultimately, I was a huge sweatlord in Season 15. Look how well I did. Yeah, how about that? I learned all of the exploits, which curbs to use, which curbs not to use. Where not to bottle it in Bahrain. Never mind. Never mind, I did bottle it in Bahrain. Inhaling the blood of Christ. And it actually is the blood of Christ today. It's not the blood plasma. I've gone slightly more rich in nutrients, bit of iron content. It's Rubicon, black cherry and raspberry. Fantastic. What a beverage. Now, Qatar in Blackout Folklore. As you all will know, Season 15 there was a Qatar Grand Prix. I wonder who won that race. I wonder who did. No, just me. Anyone? No? Okay, well, there you go. Just me, as it turns out. And then came Season 16. It was a 100% race last season, and it was won by Mr. Timmelele, and it was a very, very convincing win at that. No safety cars whatsoever, which is unbelievable. Can't really believe there was no safety cars. But there you are. Can't have everything. Stark's not very happy with the game, I can reveal. I'm not entirely sure what happened with him, but I'm guessing it's dry track doesn't equal dry pace straight away. But as always, Codemasters with the old, oh, when DRS is enabled, only then is it time for the dries. Because that's basically what it is. I can't even... Why is it not letting me do a link? I hate Discord with a passion. Sometimes. Yeah, I was trying to do that, but it didn't let me do that. I have to do a hyperlink thing. HTTPS. There we go. Yay. Welcome, my friends. Enjoy. If any of you have any content from that race, send it my way, because I'm more than happy to react to it. Next race, ladies and gentlemen, is going to be starting at 9 o'clock on the dot. So we have a little bit of time to go before our next race. 5 minutes worth of a break, so people can stay calm, have the drink, bring the white visor, and then you know the rest, basically. Season 15 Qatar was actually a very important race for me, because I think it was the 4th to last race of the season. And I come off a week where I'd had a win and then got 3rd in the USA. Ultimately, I should have stayed out. But I came in anyway, did some overtaking, inherited off penalties. It was a good fun end. I enjoyed it. And then came Qatar. I qualified. It was one-shot quali. It was 2 50% races. I qualified on pole in one-shot quali. Thankfully. Got a good start. I think I started... Was I on the hards or the mediums? I think I was on the... No, I think I was on the mediums. I was on the mediums, went until lap number, I think it was like 14 or 15, went on to hards, and never looked back. It was just a good... Although I did get 2 track limits penalties in the same lap. That wasn't fun. And then I had to be slightly more careful, which is never fun. You don't want to be careful when you're driving. That's boring. And it was great for me. The only big threat I had was Milo. And I'm not even kidding when I say that, because Milo decided to be very, very audacious indeed and went medium soft, and ultimately had great pace all the way through to the very end. I actually had some really good fights. I remember having some good fights with Milo in Season 5. I remember, what was it, China. China was good because What did I do? So I did mediums at the start of the race, I think it was. And the mediums had absolutely no pace whatsoever. I couldn't believe how little pace they had in them. So from pole, basically, I could only keep the gap at like 3 or 4 seconds. And actually, I think it got lower than that because the mediums were genuinely that bad. And then I got onto the softs, and then they just had more grip the entire stint. So F1 23 is not a perfect game by any means, but you know, what can you do? Update, actually. I talked last week about a rig, my rig specifically, because the pedal plate was having a day off and I needed to get it fixed. Well, Next Level Racing were very, very kind. I emailed them, got back to me extremely quickly, and said, absolutely fine, we'll send it over a pedal plate and whatnot. At a price, which I'm fine with. It was more than reasonable enough. So I've got the pedal plate and the strengthening kit for the FGT, which means now I can actually drive again once I've manufactured it into position. So that should be fun. Haven't driven in like 2.5 weeks, which is like the most in God knows how long. I think the most since I actually started driving on F1 23 is probably how long it's been. So I need to get back on it, because that's just not good enough, really, is it? All that waffling, I've managed to cut it down to a minute before we head onto the Qatar Grand Prix. A great driver's track. Absolutely superb driver's track. Make no mistake about that. But as an overtaking track, in real life at least, not great. In the game, though, it's ace. Absolutely love it as an overtaking track there. Can't deny that. But, yeah, I mean, as an overtaking track in real life, we saw it's not very good. At all. Also, some fun intel. I did some time trial a month ago around Qatar on a controller. I'm half a second quicker than Big Sam. Don't know what to make of that. But ultimately, there you go. Anyone that wants me in their driver lineup next year, call me. Don't think you'd want me. I wouldn't have the same pace on a controller as I did on a wheel. But that's beside the point. Not long to go now. Fleeting moments. And then it's time to run the rhythm. Let the atmosphere ignite with the sound of the symphony of the V6 roar. As we will go racing round Qatar with an actual qualifying session as well. An actual qualifying session. There's Magico. Who isn't here yet? I'm exposing you on stream. No, I'm not actually. That's disgusting. I'm so sorry. Oh, I know who's not here. Sweat Lords. Well, Terziak's just joined, so he's managed to avoid that particular one. But there's a certain Mercedes driver who hasn't joined, and begins with T and ends in Timmelele, who hasn't joined back into Lobbe. So, I am watching you. I have you on my case. I'm telling you right now that you are now holding everyone up. We're a minute late. Come on. What are you doing? Bloody ages waiting. Look at this. Terziak's here. Hasn't chosen his car, but he is here. I remember one week Timmelele was in the V car. That really confused me. Don't know why you did that. Yes, Stark is doing Qatar. Buck20 asking Stark if he's doing Qatar. Yes, he is doing Qatar. Right. Everybody's here. Good. Get in your cars. It's time to go racing. For the second time tonight. Apparently, I've got mail as well. That's fun. I don't care. It probably isn't that interesting. They'll be like, oh, you got a nice podium pass. You got a koi fish as a helmet. Well, who cares? I don't want that. I want classic cars. I want more tracks in the game. I want the ability to customize my calendar and expand it and make it my own. But no. No, you won't give me that. Because you don't like fun. So what's really the point? Come on, guys. We're cooking up. It's time to go racing. I think. Maybe. Yes? No? Someone do something. Well, there's a few questions we can ask ourselves before we get into this qualifying session. First of all, can Thanasi make it 2 wins from 2? Secondly, can Kick Sauber continue this marvellous momentum and tremendous trajectory throughout the rest of this weekend and in Qatar? Who knows? We're about to find out. Can Stark bounce back against Codemasters themselves and ultimately lunch up the developers of the Formula 1 game? Can Timmelele spring back up to the front of the field after what was a very lacklustre performance in Hungary by his very high standards? All of that is to come. Also the question of, can McLaren keep consistently scoring high points? All the questions that will be answered in about 5 seconds' time. We head to the Qatar pit lane for the Qatar Grand Prix, obviously, because where else would we be going? Look at that. Look at that foliage around Qatar. Would you believe it? The lush jungles of Qatar. I didn't know it was a thing, but alas, the more you know. Lush jungles of Qatar. Like I say, fantastic driver's track. In terms of qualifying, you're going to see high speed throwing of the car around, left, right, and centre. I did an absolutely mad race on Friday, Creator Series F2. Go and check it out if you haven't already. I did an absolutely mad race there. Complete chaos from start to finish, particularly the last laps, where ultimately it came down to the very last corner. Penalties sort of put pay to any chances of that guy winning, but, you know, never give up. Good mentality to have. And so he did not. Now, my guess as to who's going to come out of the pit lane first to sample the Losail circuit, I imagine it will be Big Swimmer. A track traditionally used for MotoGP before Formula 1 came along. Never mind. Never mind. He is not first out onto the track because J-Lane has taken the moniker from him. He will be second out onto the track, but second, it's not first really, is it? J-Lane will sample the Losail circuit before anybody else gets the chance to. They had to deal with the wet and wild ride of the Hungaroring. Now it is going to be bone dry, hot-headed conditions in Qatar. Ultimately, track limits will play a tremendous part in this qualifying session. Lots of opportunities to carry. Just absolutely shed loads of momentum. Equally, though, those shed loads of momentum can make you fall foul to the track policeman, which we'll not want to be doing. Was running quite well in the Hungaroring race before a mistake ultimately put pay to an otherwise very good result. Both V-Carbs out on the track. We've got Pathiman here. Big Sam Maximus is there. Milo in the McLaren. He's out for a lap, as is Derek Dirkleton on the intermediate tyres.
What?
J-Lane will be first, though. Absolutely first. To set a flying lap round this track. The Losail circuit beckons. Let's ride on board with the V-Carb man out of the final corner. Get the best exit possible. Open up that DRS. Launch the battery all the way down this straight. That's where you're going to gain the most time from deploying the ERS. Brake at the 50-meter board, if not slightly past it. Use the curb and carry the momentum all the way through the exit. A little bit more still to carry, but plenty of purchase through turn number 2. Very tyre-limited circuit with all the medium to high-speed corners. Those Pirellis will be absolutely shrieking for resuscitation as we get towards the end of this lap. Already sliding around through the double right-hander. Flick the car in. Hope that the rear end will comply and rotate nicely. Very early down on the throttle and the battery, but it's a purple Sector 1, courtesy of the fact he's the only one to have gone through it. Use all the exit. Ultimately keep on the curb. Cut that curb nicely. Sweep to the outside. Pinch the nose in through the left-hander. Once you get that steering wheel as straight as possible, Still a little bit of turn, but you can slam that foot to the floor. And then now it is full throttle. Number 1 is done. Number 2 is done. Make that number 3. Change down of the gear just to let the revs dull down the pace a tiny bit. Then through here, can also go full throttle. Just keeps it within track limits. That is critical commitment from J-Lane. Ultimately, masterful commitment as well. All the way deploying to the start-finish line. It's a 1:23.476. J-Lane is faster than Max Verstappen. Who isn't? Big Sam towards the line. He goes. Can he usurp the V-car man? No, only 7 tenths off almost. Oh dear. Maximus is next across the line. It is fastest by 6 tenths of a second as well. That's mightily impressive. Pathiman, he can't quite find any purchase in the Alpine machine. He remains in P6, and ultimately those times will tumble. I see a Jamie Tarquin crossing the line. He's invalidated his lap. Dirkleton across the line. He's done a 1:33.1. He is on the intermediate, so that probably explains why. But also that does slightly show the ramifications of that one. Magico through the penultimate corner. Nice amount of commitment. Still a bit more space and time to find. But ultimately, get a clean lap on the board first time. You can allow your confidence to just rise and rise as you carry on, which at the end of the British Bake Off is quite appropriate. A 10th and a half off Big Sam. That slam makes it. That kicks Sauber 1-2 with a purple final sector. It's a very green fairy tale. The Ferrari of Stark just beginning a lap. Vulcan soon to cross the line as well. He'll start a lap, as will Buck 57. Milo and Jamie Tarquin will be staking their claim also for the pole position battle before too long. Through the first few corners. Stark pushing the battery a little bit. And through the double right-hander. Can afford to turn in a little bit earlier. Use a bit more of the curbs. It's adventurous, but it's got to be done to gain those crucial tenths of a second. Vulcan's just crossed the line to begin a flying lap into the pit lane. Comes Milo as across the line goes Jamie Tarquin to begin yet another lap in this qualifying session. Can afford to do that. You absolutely can. At the moment, actually, with my time trial time, I'll be on pole. 22.1. I'm not smug yet. And I say that because Timmelele, Terziak and Thanasi all haven't set laps, and Jamie Tarquin. So that is full throttle as anything. A tiny lift through the left-hander. Ultimately just a safety lift to get that first lap on the board. Front end pinches in nicely. Good momentum carried through the final corner. Across the line. It's P2. Only 4 thousandths. Quicker than Slam. So what a great lap by Maximus. Let's put it that way. Absolutely phenomenal lap from him. An invalidation for J-Lane. What would that have been? It would have been a 1:23.6 on the older tyre. So actually not losing that much time given everything, which is good to see from his perspective. As Big Swimmer crosses the line, goes faster, 1:23.5. Very, very close to thwarting the plans of J-Lane and Slam up ahead, but no cigarettes on this occasion. Vulcan sets his first lap time of the session, and he's into P6. And then came the Jamie Tarquin. Invalidated his lap. I can only assume he's doing race running because he's used absolutely no battery at all. And he keeps invalidating every lap. Pathiman, you're a sensible man. You'll cross the line. You're on an out lap, though, which is fair. Buck 57, whereabouts are you on the track? Answer is through the final corner. He flies through towards the line. A 1:23.4 puts him in 4th place. Good starting lap. A good banker so far. But it's Terziak across the line to start his first flying lap of the session. And Pathiman is also on the move. Hello, F1 Alex. How you doing, mate? Shoutouts to you. Quick tune in whilst on the cruise. Hope you're well. Man is absolutely peppered. Do you know what? The commitment, you're battered and you still came along to watch all the Blackout Bonanza. I applaud you, my friend. Welcome along. It's good to have you on board. And I promise you that wasn't intentional. Pathiman, ERS being deployed. Will he lift? Question is the answer. First one, no lift. Second one, no lift. Third one, absolutely no lift. That is smooth as you like. Woof. Keeping it within track limits. The Alpine man absolutely acing these final few corners. Just one to go. Keep it within the track limits. About half a tyre in it. And then DRS wide open. Of course, it's pole position. It looked clean. It looked quick. And there's the proof in the pudding, which Pathyman will absolutely gobble. 4 attempts up on everybody else so far. Buck 57, though, back across the line. 2.5 seconds down. Never mind. It was a short-lived pole position because the Flying Scotsman has come through with a 1 minute 22.2. Still on a controller. I am faster. Come on, guys. Stark would have been in the 1 minute 22s with that lap had it been valid, but he will go again. I have no doubt. McLaren, both of them are on laps. Buck 20, about halfway round. Got the V-Carbs still on the move. Not J-Lane. No, J-Lane's coming through the final corner. I assume he's doing some race runs as well now, given his lap times and how long he's been out. Vulcan, is he doing race runs? Nope, he's invalidated as well. Was 3 temps up. So, times are still tumbling down, despite the age of the tyres, which ultimately is the Achilles heel around this track in the game. So, very encouraging news for our drivers. And ultimately, Buck 20 is left needing a little bit of encouragement because he is feeling desperately discouraged with a track limits invalidation. Would have still been good enough for P10 on the road, but you have to keep it within the white lines. Not pushing it whatsoever, so it's now up to Milo with a purple sector 2. 1, 2, 3, churns down a gear for the third right-hander. Can go full throttle through the left-hander if you're feeling brave. Especially on a controller, you can just flick the joystick all the way and then the car just slides. It's some great physics, let me tell you. Across the line for Milo, though. It's P2 on the road. Less than a tenth in it. And now it is getting closer and closer. But look who's on the move. Championship leader, Timmelele. The normally cool, calm and calculated championship leader had a very haggard Hungarian Grand Prix, looking to make amends with his first lap, and he's into the 121s. The first driver to do so, and that is very much starting on both the front foot and certainly the right foot. V-Carb Vulcan across the line, still on the older tyres, I think, and still going faster. 1:23.664. Jamie Tarquin's already retired from the session. Not entirely sure why. Buck 20 across the line to set his first lap. He's washed. But now, with a fully charged battery, he can go again and put his competitors to the sword. Thanasi crosses the line. He's starting another flying lap in this session. Buck 57 will cross the line. He's charged up his battery. And on he goes. On 4-lap old soft tyres as well. Of course, the tyres getting older, but the fuel coming down as well. The car's lighter. You've allowed yourself to throw it into the corners that little bit more. Just got to pray that it all sticks and that the aerodynamics help the car to hunker down in exactly the way you want it. Red Bull driver of Dirkleton across the line into P8. Nicely done. A neat little lap there from the Red Bull man. Only a few hundredths off as well, getting into P7. So, track getting better and better. And it looks like if you use soft tyres instead of the intermediates, well, turns out, pays dividends. How about that? Into the pits comes Timmelele. Thanasi's already invalidated a lap. That's not great. Although he is on 100% battery. So I imagine it was all just a load of codswallop anyway. Final corner for Buck 20. Rounds it nicely. Keeps well within the confines. Across the line goes the McLaren. It's P8. For the time being, it is P8. Slam went across the line, by the way, to do a 122.7. V-Carb are practically Gorilla Glue. Not V-Carb, Kick Sauber, my apologies. Kick Sauber practically Gorilla Glued to one another here at the Qatar Grand Prix. Which, considering it's 2 men glued to each other... Actually, let's not talk about that. Let's move on. Who is on a lap so far? The answer is Thanasi is. Did a 124.8 and he was hardly even pushing. So what happens when you unshackle the beast? Time to find out. Through the double right-hander. Keep it within the track. And is it a purple sector 1? You better believe it is. Confidence at an all-time high. A phenomenal drive in the pinnacle of the sport last time out. To see him really cut through the championship leaders gap. And to do another number on the man who was basically ran rampant. Could pay all the difference. A purple sector 2 just has to get this one right. Full throttle absolutely everywhere. Just a change down of the gear. Oh, just keeps it within track limits. It is on the absolute limit from the Williams driver, but that's what makes it so exciting. Across the line, of course it's pole position. Just over 0.3 of a second in it for the Williams driver. Has to get back to the pit lane quick smart if he wants to get another set of softs on and extend that advantage out in front, although perhaps some strategic plays to be had by saving some softs and just doing this one lap. We shall soon find out. Big Swimmer's on a lap meanwhile. And while he's the only one on a competitive flying lap, let's keep on board with the Aston Martin man, have a little break, and just sample the noise. Turns out it was all preparation and he's going again. I don't know why I bother either, honestly. Milo, meanwhile, has gone up to P4 and is looking to improve. 22.3. Has to find 7 attempts to get to pole position, which seems like a tall order, but you never know. You never ever know in this game. Thanasi and co better get out of the pit lane pretty quickly if they want to set one more flying lap in this contest. But dare I say, Timmelele not looking particularly interested in exiting the pit lane. Oh, now he does. But surely that's too late. For both Tim and Thanasi, that's surely got to be too late. There's no way they're going to make it across the line. Milo crosses the line, no. Gets to P3. Tim on an outlap. Thanasi's just about going to get out onto the track, but has only got 1 minute and 9 seconds. So they're going to have to push like hell to get to the end of it. Thanasi's retired from the session. He knows it is completely pointless trying to do anything with the rest of this qualifying session. Stark looking to make big improvements. He knows that they're on the table. He's just got to find them. 4 attempts in the first sector alone is exactly what he needs. See how much time there is left. Yellow flag through turn number 2. It's just Thanasi's Williams parking up nicely. About 40 seconds. As there's a V-carb going through the gravel. Is that Vulcan or J-Lane? No idea, but they kept well out of the way. It was Vulcan. My apologies. Vulcan, who was a 10th up, so a big mistake, has seen him absolutely plummet down the order. 8 tenths up. He's got a purple sector 2. This could get interesting. Dirkleton into the 1 minute 22s. Goes the Red Bull driver. Those times will tumble thick and fast. Everyone just about crossing the line to try and get their final flying laps on the board. only 6 seconds left of this session. Tim's not going to get across the line. Tim's going to miss out on setting a lap. Stark across the line. P5 for the Ferrari man. Tim's missed out. His qualifying session is done and dusted. And so, we wait for the Kick Saubers, for Buck 20, for the Aston Martins, for so many others, to see what kind of impression they can make on pole position. It's practically a Sebastian Vettel. Thanasi sits in the pit lane, goes out, does 1 lap, refuses to elaborate, retires. What can you do, honestly? So, Maximus at the front. No, he's not. Slam's at the front. Maximus has decided his lap's gone to absolute smithereens. Slam will cross the line as marginal improvements before. It is still a marginal improvement, but it does hoist him closer to his teammate. 1 Aston Martin in the pit lane. Big Swimmer can't improve. J-Lane monumentally improves. But the question is, what will Terziak do? What will Buck 20 do? He can't improve much. Terziak takes P2 with his final flying lap. Absolutely insane effort from the Aston Martin man. And it's just Maximus left to cross the line and bring the checkered flag to an end. But that is it. Pathiman also crossed the line with a meteoric showing for P5 on the road. For the Alpine team, he has been the Lone Ranger for the past couple of weeks. But flying the flag very handsomely indeed. Well, there you go, ladies and gentlemen. Qualifying done and dusted. And on pole position, well, was complete and utter commitment that got it over the line. It's complete commitment from every driver, but even more so with a 121.607, 2.5 tenths quicker than anybody else. Thanasi has it in his grasp. Terziak close by. Don't count out Timmelele either. And when it comes to race pace, with the strength of the slipstream, you better believe it. Anything is possible. Thanasi B1, your front row is completed by Terziak. Timmelele and Milo complete the second row, with Pathiman and J-Lane 5th and 6th. Stark in 7th, Maximus in 8th, Slam in 9th, Buck 57 in 10th. Buck 20 in 11th, Dirkleton 12th, with Big Sam, Vulcan, Magico, and the Red Bull of Jamie Tarquin, rounding out our grid lineup. Well, there we are. And now, with a quick sleep, quick rest and recuperation, ladies and gentlemen, what are we doing? Get up. It's race day. And the Paddock Club actually exists this time. My gosh. About time. Thanasi on pole again, then. Well, I say it again. Well, again in this season. Of course, reverse grid, so there wasn't particularly a pole sitter last time out. But a race winner last time out, that is for sure. Can he make it 2 from 2? Will Terziak or Timmelele spoil the party? You never know. You never know what could happen. The beauty of the Blackout Racing League is that results can be rather random. That encounters can be both exciting and ominous. And that ultimately, when it comes to the racing, there is almost nothing like it. DHL sponsors, who will deliver the best result today? That's the question. Many, many answers soon to come. Look at that V-card, man. He's just chilling. Staring into my soul. Can you not, lad? That's a bit personal. I have a bubble. Stay out of it. 5 red lights on the Losail circuit. Qatar will soon be underway. Lights out and away we go. That wasn't long at all, and it's a decent start. A more than decent start from Thanasi. Put on the hard tyres. Here comes the medium runner of Timmelele, trying to go round the outside. Thanasi uses the momentum, and Timmelele goes off the track. Still holds it down the inside, and still they run side by side, using the slipstream, drafting off the sides of each other. The inside line for Thanasi. Tim tries to hold it, but has to concede in the end. Maybe another chance into the hairpin if he's feeling brave. Dirkleton's already got a penalty for cutting the corner and gaining a place, but traction is looking vastly superior at this early stage. Could look for a switchback through the right-hander if he's feeling brave. He's going for it. But again, another slide. The rear end just rabbits around, and then the momentum has to break mid-corner to stop careering into the diffuser of the Williams driver. Stark and Milo now side by side as he takes advantage of the McLaren man, compromising himself, and round the outside sweeps the Ferrari, although off the track as well. There's going to be a lot of penalties today. Make no mistake, they'll play a huge part in today's Qatar Grand Prix. But even so, great racing so far. End of lap number 1. Tim is practically pushing Thanasi through the final corner. The disparity between the mediums and the hards is absolutely... well, you can't even begin. I don't even need to have the words for it. There's the evidence. There's the depiction of the disparity. Round the outside goes the Ferrari. It's 2 cars in a straight, and sweeping through to take the lead. It's the Scarlet Ferrari of Stark. Lovely little move there, and Tim looks to have got past Thanasi as well. It's Milo's turn to try and get the Williams on the chopping block. Into the hairpin, contact with the diffuser of the Williams. Hard tyres absolutely not fired up as Tim looks to make a move around the Ferrari of Stark. Round the outside, contact made between the two of them as they try and sort it out on the road. They do get it well and truly sorted. Timmelele takes top honours for the moment, but remember, DRS will play a huge part today. With how strong the slipstream is, with how devilish DRS is, well, let me tell you, it's going to be 29 laps of slipstream sidewinding. And maybe slipstream sideswiping. Hopefully not that. Don't want that level of contact. Keep it clean, lads. But 20's on a move. He's going round the outside of the kick Sauber of Slam, as is Pathyman. He's been shouldered off the track slightly. Tim goes into the bits. Never mind, Slam's going into the bits. Tim gets the fastest lap. I'm getting confused. Slam already into the pit lane. I can only assume he had front wing damage because he lost a plethora of time to the cars in front. And yes, indeed, end plate missing on the left-hand side. That is all the evidence you need. And front wing being changed. It's disastrous for the kick Sauber driver in the early stage. Milo, meanwhile, has got past Thanasi. And more people getting past as Thanasi goes wide into the double right-hander. The hard's not firing up whatsoever. And again, another slide from the Williams driver. And then a slight biff in the diffuser from Maximus as he unleashes his nose cone into the rear of the Williams. That is a rather saucy thought. Let's not do that again. Foot to the floor, though, all the way towards the triple right-hander. Thanasi deploying battery. Any chance he has of staying in the DRS, he'll be absolutely welcome to take it. Jamie Tarquin already has a 3-second time penalty to his name. And going off the track again and possibly getting another warning. Can ill afford to do that in this early stage. Through those final corners. Again, medium tyres the way to go in these first 4 laps of the race. J-Lane takes the fastest lap. Tim's going through into the lead once again. And Milo down the inside of the Ferrari of Stark. Tried to use the outside momentum, but going that wide is only going to endear Milo to some more points. Look at a nice helicopter shot. Look at that. The landscapes of Qatar. It's flat. Flat as anything. But I'll tell you what, it might be flat. But the racing lines you can take, the curves, they're fat. So who's really winning? Terziak into P7. Pathyman in P8. Him and Thanasi went for the hard tyres in the early phase, get the pain out of the way, and then clearly, when they get the chance later on, they'll be able to rid themselves of the woe of the harder compound and create some marvellous mincings on the mediums. Only time will tell, but staying within DRS of Maximus can only be a good omen for the Williams driver. On board with Thanasi then. Keeping it well within the confines. That's probably the aim of the game today as well. Not get track limit warnings if you can avoid it. Plenty of time to go in this race, and if your name's Buck 20 and you've got a 3-second time penalty after 4 laps, probably not the best kind of omen to have. Tim sets the fastest lap of the Qatar Grand Prix. Milo well within DRS. J-Lane's going for moves on Stark. A bit of argy-bargy on the side pods, as J-Lane has the inside line, does get a nose ahead, but still they remain side by side for turn number 2. Stark will just get his nose ahead, and his whole car for that matter. That's round the outside. Goes Thanasi on the hard compound tyres. Tell you what, it might have been a pain train initially, but they're finally firing up into life. One of the things they did say to me when I was interviewing some of the drivers after the race I did on Friday round this track was that the hards, they said, felt absolutely awful. They couldn't stand them whatsoever. But then they got a second lease of life, and essentially they would have rather stayed on them because actually their pace was properly worth it. So maybe that is the way. Who knows? Thanasi beginning to gain more and more on these cars in front. Red Bulls just line astern, running their own race, working together. Stark in P3 hasn't got DRS, and that is only going to hurt him. Leave the Scuderia man battered and bruised. At least the paint job hides any particular injuries he might inflict himself after being overtaken with the DRS by J-Lane. He doesn't have it for himself to defend with, not this time, and so it is an academic move for the V Carbohydrates driver, as Jamie Tarquin gets through on his teammate. Easily done with DRS into P10, as Pathiman, Terziak and Buck 20 all sort of lose touch of DRS in synchro. Terziak briefly dipping back into it, but these front 6 at the moment just about having all the answers to their queries. Thanasi looking to get to work on the hard tyres, but he's got Maximus for company. Just keeping him very honest here on lap number 6. All kinds of developments still to go on in this one. Not sure we've seen the proper crossover of the hard compound and the medium compound. It's just starting to ebb and flow between the two of them, and it's only been 6 laps. So, it does say a lot in terms of the context of when to change tyres, potentially. You know you have 6 laps more of pace on the same age tyres, so depending on when those medium tyre runners pit, you know the calculations if you're on the hards that you need to do to pit in and have the proper pace. That is definitely a corner cut from the Kickstarter man, and if it isn't, I'm going to jump out of my window. It's on the ground floor, but I don't care. I make the rules. J-Lane just losing touch with the leaders just a little bit. Thanasi not getting involved, holding the inside line as Stark. He has a front row seat to Stark, trying to go round the outside of the V-Carb driver. Still has a nose just alongside his rear tyre, but J-Lane uses the outside line to great effect. Keeps in position. Thanasi with, like I say, getting his popcorn ready in case a move like that is made. And there's a chance for him to snap up and gobble up those extra points and juicy positions ahead. Stark goes wide at the hairpin. All the while, a chance to weave one way and then the other way could present itself, but better to just not compromise your line and keep yourself pointing in the right direction. Yellow flag, what's happened? Dirkleton's on the infield. He's been in the wall. He's had a meeting with Barrier. Ultimately, I'm guessing it didn't end very well because Barrier's stolen some of his nose away from him. The cardinal sin of Barrier strikes again, and Dirkleton feeling rather egg-faced after a practical yoke from Barrier. Milo and Timmelele, in a world of their own. I'm going to pretend I didn't press that. I didn't. It was Codemaster's fault, obviously. DRS still for the McLaren. Timmelele basically hoisting Milo away from the battle behind. And these 4 or 5 cars, as Pathyman's right up on the back of Maximus at the back of this train. Ultimately, any ways they can gain the advantage is going to help them massively. Thanasi's going through. He's had enough of waiting around. He's bided his time enough. It's time to deploy every ounce of pace of the hard compound tyres. Through into P4 goes the Williams driver, and he now can set his sights, reticule, firmly on the V-carb of J-Lane. Just gap stagnating everywhere else. Buck 57, meanwhile, that's not stagnated. That is getting very sprucey. A concoction of racecraft that is absolutely rapturous. Buck 57 through into P12. Still plenty of penalties in this race at the moment. Derek Dirkleton, of course, into the pit lane with front wing damage at lap number 8. It's absolutely devastating. 3 seconds now, the gap between J-Lane and the front 2. Thanasi knows that crossover is evolving and developing. He can see it happening. He can feel it happening. And so he needs to get past J-Lane just to not have any issues going forward. 2 tenths through the final corner. Start goes astronomically wide at the final apex. Will be a warning coming his way, I have no doubt, although it's Codemasters. Who knows what I'm talking about? It's an academic move with DRS. Thanasi sweeps through into P3, and now we will see what the true pace of the Williams car is on those hard compound tyres. All the while they're on these straight lines, Milo with the slipstream on Timmelele, and so it just lets that time ebb and flow, which is what they will want. About a 10th gained for the Williams driver, and sliding on the exit. Still might not be the time for it. Still might need a lap or 2 for it to finally have the pendulum swing his way. But building a bit of a gap to J-Lane for the time being, which is what he will want. That's a great left-hand corner. Manages to prize himself away even more. 3 tenths gained on the cars in front, and still gaining now through these fast corners, where before the mediums had such superior purchase. Now those hard tyres are just beginning to come into play. 2.6 now the gap. It's half a second on this lap alone for the Williams. But DRS for Milo will just let that gap extend out for him. It's all a psychological factor that will play into the McLaren man's hands. Equally, if they can't really get up the road, then it's all just an act of kidology at that point. Battles going on up and down. Big Sam's one of them. The battles between him and Buck 57 have not quite ended just yet. And Big Sam conquers the Williams car to take P11, although the battle's certainly not done yet. Buck 57 looking for a switchback through turn number 2. It's not going to happen for him, not for the time being, but again, just darting the nose to the inside, making himself look as big as possible in the mirrors of the Aston Martin car. Just not close enough to consider a dive into the hairpin, although so much bravery on the brakes. Puts him right on the rear of the British-based green machine up ahead. This is the big battle for the lead, although I say that, Milo right on the back of Timmelele. Buck 57's battle was the big battle for P11, which if you take another one off the front, technically is the race win. I don't make the rules. But Milo, with DRS, has bided his time extremely well, and patience certainly is a virtue. Through goes Milo, and through goes Maximus, down the inside of the Ferrari. Stark holds it round the outside. Maximus leaves in the space, and ultimately, momentum always sided with the Kick Sauber as he firmly stomps through into P5. Thanasi's broken DRS to J-Lane, meanwhile. That's exactly what he wants in the grand scheme of this race. And the chase now for the front two can truly begin. With no extra pressure from behind, he can just look forwards, and that's exactly what you want. Never want to be looking backwards. It's a horrible feeling. Through the sweeping left-hander we go. I think that was nearly 2 attempts through that left-hander for a brief moment. Deploying a bit of battery. Both Timmelele and Milo have saved a lot of battery, though. So, they are in the same chat. If they're thinking of working together, they can just deploy both their battery at the same time and really cause trouble for the Williams behind. He's gained a second on this lap, meanwhile. Possibly time to get scared. Maybe start deploying that battery now. That's what I'd say. Like now, maybe. But it is DRS. Timmelele's back through into the lead. Shock. Of the Qatar Grand Prix. Milo back down into P2. Pathiman going through on the Ferrari car. The Alpine Ace into P6. The French connection, rather unlike real life, very much on time. Still, the battle between Buck 57 and Co rages on as we look to Vulcan's perspective. As he was getting close and personal with the big swimmer. Ultimately, the currents of the aerodynamics on the back of the Aston Martin threw the V-carb out into the runoff area and into a half spin. And now he's got to do all that work all over again. Big Sam, meanwhile, beginning to put on the pressure. Both hard tyre shodden cars. Here on lap number 12, and it's probably time now to consider when to actually pit. When do you take that gamble? Because it is getting to that time. Thanasi now is going half a second a lap faster than the front two, and that's even with DRS assistance for these two cars. So, not before long, it will be time to consider getting off this old rubber. Speaking of which, getting off the old rubber, J-Lane, it's going to be one of those cars. An undercut power is going to be deployed, as it is for Maximus, as it is for the Ferrari of Stark. Onto the hard compound tyres they go, because anything else would be dumb. Onto the hard compound tyres, J-Lane onto the hard compound tyres, through they all trundle. Feels like an eternity. And they do well to get out ahead of the Mercedes of Magico. J-Lane certainly will. Maximus might struggle a bit more with it. And in fact, it's more than struggle. He's going to be behind the Mercedes, at least for a fleeting moment, which is not going to be fun for him particularly. Was fighting with J-Lane. J-Lane now has just a bit of daylight to breeze away into. And that's all he wants. Lap number 13 of the Qatar Grand Prix, almost halfway through. And now a battle that was once for P11, now has developed into a battle for P9. So time to be the optimism overlord. As Big Sam says, let me have a taste. And Buck 57 says, no sir, that's not very nice. You should ask politely first. Don't just demand. We don't do demands around here. Although, given it's Qatar, maybe they would. Oh dear, it looks like Thanasi made a mistake. And I say that because he's now 4.3 seconds down at the final corner and losing an absolute truckload of time. What on earth happened there? Well, it must have been a mistake. I've absolutely no doubt about that. But there you go. Even Thanasi is human. And I think that is something positive we can all take with us today. Pathiman stayed out for one extra lap. Was it worth it? Time to find out. Does he get out ahead of Magico? Yes, he does. Does he get out ahead of both Stark and Maximus? Absolutely, yes, he does. Does have those colder tyres. Will take a bit longer for them to get up to the operating window. But Pathiman operating on cloud 9 at the moment, albeit in P10. He is ahead of both of his closest competitors. But Stark deploys his tractor beam, phases through the Alpine and ascends into P10. You don't hear that on any other broadcast. But Blackout doesn't disappoint. Pathiman, unfortunately, can't get his tractor beam working. he does biff the rear wheel of the Ferrari. And so Stark can get on the move. Thanasi, of course, not very happy with what happened on the last lap. He's now gained a second on this one. Just being a bit careful on the final corner. Actually going a bit wide. And Milo has gone into the pit lane on lap number 15. About time he did. It's going to be hard tyres. Absolutely no doubt about that. But the fact he kept up with Timmelele for so long is all the better for him. Because he's going to be out ahead of all of those cars. J-Lane, Stark, Pathiman, Maximus, all of those conglomerations will be thwarted. And the McLaren man, as long as he gets his foot on the gas, will go out into a nice pocket of clean air in front of Buck 57. A good lap here with the undercut could spell danger for the Mercedes man. We shall soon find out if that is the case. Timmelele, your race leader then, on those medium tyres, possibly going for a medium soft strategy, which I will admit will be very bold. Equally though, boldness is one thing, execution is another thing entirely. So he'd better hope he can do it. That is all I am saying. Thanasi catching once again. 3 attempts so far on this lap, maybe even 4 attempts. Constantly chipping away. Keeping it within the confines. And then through the final corner. To end the lap with just about a half a second's gain. Although, Timmelele, I suspect, deploying a bit of battery there. Just to open up that gap a little bit more. Perhaps pressure his opponents to use a bit more of their battery. It's all good gamesmanship. How about that? That psychological advantage. Big sack. Oh my. Right, well, I mean, there's only 5 drivers now. Oh, no, hang on. 1, 2, 3, 6 drivers without a penalty in this race. As Big Sam finally gets his man once again. He's been waiting a while for this outcome, and he has finally received it. Big Sam through. Oh no! What's happened to Stark? He's had a big moment, not as big as Maximus though. He's had a half spin into the infield again. Very well saved from the Kicksauber man. But it looks like once again, it all got perhaps a bit too frosty. Between the Kicksauber and the Ferrari. Green and red, what do you get? Beaten black and blue. Probably not entirely accurate. But the point is, that's the outcome Maximus received anyway. Down to P12 and out of DRS from Pathiman ahead. Milo not having a penalty is actually going to do him a world of good in this race. Make no mistake about that. On these newer, harder compound tyres, I don't know what the fastest lap is. At the moment, it's a 125.1. Milo operating at a 125.4 as his fastest lap. Both leaders have come into the pit lane. I suspect it will be... No, it's hard tyres. Fair enough. Hard compound tyres. Will Mercedes release him? Just give them a fine. You have every right to give them a fine. Out of the pit lane comes Thanasi, of course, on the medium tyres. No surprises there. And where is Milo? He's only just started to go down the straight. Where's Timmelele filtering out in all of this? Milo's going to be right alongside the Mercedes man. Round the outside. Goes to McLaren for the race lead. Can he execute it? Of course he can. Great sweeping move from Milo with his tyres up to temperature. But Timmelele does have age on his side in the tyre department. He has those younger tyres, and that will help in the context of things. Thanasi, meanwhile, out behind Mr. J-Lane. Another driver who hasn't got a time penalty next to his name. The more they can keep those penalties out of their possession, it will just be better for them. Gotta hope they can keep it consistent, though. That's the only side effect. And the only caveat to all this, for that matter. Stark about 2.2 seconds behind J-Lane. He's deploying some good pace now. A little bit of a skirmish with the Kicksauber of Maximus, but now getting down the road nicely. Has to be said, he's getting down the road nicely. More people into the pit lane. Terziak and Jamble Tarquin. Medium tyres for the pair of them as Thanasi sweeps through on the left-hand side. Past J-Lane to take P4. And now the big fight on those fresh medium tyres to deploy the pace and get to Tim and Milo up ahead very much begins. Terziak out of the pit lane in P9, but crucially, on those mediums, it's going to get very, very interesting indeed. Buck 57 with DRS is going to breeze past Vulcan. And no microtransactions can stop the Williams from making protein progress. How about that? Big Sam next up to try and get past a very much ailing V-carb car on older hard compound tyres. It's going to be inevitable. Round the outside goes Big Sam, space left. Great respect from the pair of them. And a good move from the Aston Martin driver. Absolutely lovely stuff. And those medium tyres working well. Thanasi's caught up by a second just on this lap. Purple sector. He is absolutely flying. Milo outside of DRS. I don't think he was outside of it through the detection point, but he was outside of it for a fleeting moment. Does he get DRS? No, he does not. Milo does not get DRS. Tim has the fastest lap, but only for a fleeting moment. Thanasi breaches into the 123s. But goes wide again. Can't be having too many of those. Can't be irking the stewards more than he already has. Gap now under 2 seconds to Milo. This is exactly what he needs to do. Keep on deploying the pace as much as he can without overstepping the boundaries, and then all the rewards will come rushing over to him. That's the game plan. Stark's got another penalty meanwhile. He's up to 6 seconds, I believe. There it is. That's the penalty situ currently. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 drivers now who haven't got penalties. My husband, Magico, being one of them. Oh, no! Buck 57's had an issue. It probably was another half spin. He's pointing very quickly in the right direction. And away he goes. Raiden says all of those time penalties. He's sweating. He's absolutely sweating looking at them, and I don't blame him. It's an absolute travesty. Terziak on those fresh mediums. I said watch for him. Watch for his progress up the order. He's within DRS of Maximus and Pathiman up ahead. Speaking of which, Maximus, great pace to get back in DRS and overtake Pathiman. Don't turn your snout up at the Kick Sauber man. He's having a great run of things this race. But now it's the turn of the Flying Scotsman. Takes all of the track on the outside to get the best exit through the final corner, and will deploy absolutely everything in the battery. No battery left for the Kick Sauber. He sniffs that opportunity from a mile away. Down the inside goes Terziak. Watch Pathiman do it. It's an emulation and a sensation. Pathiman with a mistake, and it's just child's play for Terziak, who says thank you kindly for the invitation. Into P6 he goes. Meanwhile up ahead, DRS is a beckoning for Thanasi. Terziak's next target up the road is Stark. 3.6 seconds. A little bit of a steeper gap, but not impossible by any stretch of the imagination. Buck 57 has got past Vulcan again, meanwhile. See what the tyre situation is. Vulcan's tyres are new, actually. I thought they were really, really old, but no, they're pretty new. 6 laps, not that bad. I don't know what was going on then. Anyway, back to the action. The answer the action is going to have is DRS. And then the big charge towards Timbo. 57% worth of battery for Thanasi. A 3-second time penalty next to his name. He has to do 2 things, 3 things. 1, open the DRS, overtake Milo. Then Timmelele. Then pull out 3 seconds. Tick list number 1 is complete. Past Milo he goes. It's the first objective down, and now he has 2 more to fulfill in order to become a winner with just 8 laps to go. Has to get a move on though. Another time penalty for Buck 57. He's up to 6 seconds. Not as bad as Buck 20 and Jamie Tarquin. Having a nice little scrap out there. Through Buck 20 goes with a helping hand of DRS, but 9 seconds worth of penalties for these 2. Nowhere near being gazumped by Big Sam or Buck 57 behind, so it is not panic stations for those 2. Ultimately, 6 seconds they could be ahead of Big Sam, and all would be well. So in terms of tyre life, the mediums and hards sort of crossed over properly about lap 9, lap 10. And Thanasi and Timmelele pit at exactly the same time. They're on 4-lap old medium and hard compound tyres. However, the other caveat to think about is that, of course, the cars now are lighter. They are lighter, less fuel on board. That means slightly less pressure going through those tyres, or does it? Because you sort of equalise that in a way. Because you have the lesser fuel, you're allowed to take more speed into the corners. The car becomes more nimble, and so the tyres sort of end up doing more work. It's such a paradox you have to get your head round, but ultimately, it's one that all of these guys calculate all the way through this race. Very wide from Jamie Tarquin, as he keeps the car luckily pointing in the right direction, albeit with a snap of oversteer on the rear. But DRS beckons once again for the Red Bull driver. Buck 57 has a more than healthy enough gap, though. So no matter what car... Oh, my God. Look at the straight line speed. Never mind. I forgot. Buck 20 runs about 600 wings. Contact made, but Jamie Tarquin is through. Once again, into P9. 2 seconds, the gap out in front between Thanasi and Timmelele. Trying to remember what happened in season 15 to Thanasi now. What happened to him in season 15? I think he invalidated his lap in qualifying, and then it all just, his race couldn't really recover after that. Although it was still very quick, so make of that what you will. Next race for Spain, we don't talk about that. That was not a good race for him. Bloody hell, basically hardly lifting through the penultimate corner. Unbelievable commitment all the way through. Towards the line they go. Gap being ebbed away at 3 tenths on this lap from Thanasi to Timmelele. But again, a bit of battery usage will just hoist the Mercedes man away by a couple of attempts just to equalise that gap a bit more. Stark will know this, and on the softer compounded tyres has the ability to brake later. And Terziak already caught up to Stark. Through into P5 he goes. He's absolutely flying out there. And has a good chance for potentially catching J-Lane, depending on the pace that he has. Got second place at the Hungaroring. Underrated. It's gone really under the radar. Hardly had a whisker of what he's been up to, but a big shoo-in for driver of the day as a whole. He's been absolutely ruthless out there today. Fair play to you, sir. That is a moth pith off. How about that? Gap now coming down and down. More and more and more. Tim catching up to lap traffic, though. That is the kick Sauber of Slam just up the road. You can see, and there he is, just going through the right-hander. At the same time, Tim goes through. Just in the back, well, at the back of your picture. He's in Tim's crosshairs, that's for certain. A bit of DRS help from the kick Sauber driver would not go amiss. As into the pits comes Derek Dirkleton. He's fit on a set of the soft compound tyres, and out he goes onto the road. Very different lines from Tim and Thanasi. Thanasi decided to use all the track all the way down the straight. Tim thinking, nah, not the right time. Don't bother yet. There's no point. Out goes Mr. Dirkleton on those soft compound tyres. We're getting blue flags furiously waved, I have no doubt at all. In fact, there's a marshal. I say furiously waving them, sauntering, basically. Dirk says, me and Slam gonna battle at the back, 0 rules. Oh, here we go. This is what you were here to bear witness to. Stark not done with Terziak just yet, though. Thought he was going to get down the road. Stark said, nah, no chance, mate. I might have penalties, but I still want a good fight out there. And so he's giving us one. The man donning Sebastian Vettel's number 5 on the Ferrari car. Oh, no! Vulcan's had a problem. No front wing damage, but very much emotional damage. He has again fallen foul to a slight mistake. And so, P13 and a very, very significantly chunked through gap as Magico gets within 4 seconds. Gap just stagnating at the front, although Thanasi will probably be happy to get a first and a second out of this weekend as a whole. Still have a healthy margin. Brady says Dirk is last place. Love to see it. This is true, but he is on the soft compound tyres, so let him cook. You never know. Another... Oh, my gosh! Oh, my gosh, what has happened? A full safety car? How on earth have you done that? Stark down to P10. That's probably why. Huge front wing damage. Have I just completely missed that? I'm so sorry if I did. But, oh, my goodness me. The cat amongst the pigeons, ladies and gentlemen. With just a few laps to go, fresh mediums go on the Ferrari car. Despite the front wing damage, going to mosey up to the back. It is not done yet. Do apologise if I missed it. I was just drinking to stop my throat from suffocating. Stark with big front wing damage, though. My gosh. All of a sudden, it has opened up. Big time. Don't scratch your eyes, ladies and gentlemen. It's going to be a sensational sprint to the end. I'm sure pretty much everyone will probably come into the pit lane. Unless they're feeling bold and decide not to. But I don't know why you wouldn't pit onto soft tyres. Not going to lie. Tim comes into the pit lane. As does Tanasi. He enters the pit lane. I imagine Milo will do much the same. And so he does. Peel into the pit lane. J-Lane peels into the pit lane. Terziak probably also peels into the pit lane. Yes, he does. And then there's a bit of a gap to Maximus behind. Although he has already pit. So there you go. Milo does get passed by J-Lane briefly. But only briefly. Because there you go. Pit lane shenanigans all done and dusted. And it will be soft tyres, I have absolutely no doubt. Softs for Tim, softs for Thanasi, softs for Milo, softs for J-Lane, and of course softs for Terziak. In fact, you would be hard-pressed to find anyone. Oh no! Jamie Tarkham, what have you done? A drive-through penalty for speeding under the safety car. And the stewards don't take kindly to that. Do you know what they also don't take kindly to? Wing mirrors. Actually, no, they treat them like Lord God Almighty. Bloody let them run riot in the middle of the track. Then let them get run over and explode. Don't know what that says about them, but anyway, I'll gloss over that. Safety car, here we go. Only 4 laps left to go. I say that, 3.5 laps left to go of this contest. At the moment, Timmelele is your leader. Thanasi in P2, with a penalty, albeit. Milo 3rd, J-Lane 4th, Terziak in 5th. Pretty much everyone on equal pegging, though. They have levelled the playing field significantly. Brady is living smug life, watching Dirk in last place. But when they mosey up to the back of the queue, we shall soon find out if that no-rules battle will come to fruition. Many, many questions. Many, many answers to be had. Safety car will, it looks like, not be coming in at the end of this lap. Still a lot of cars need to make their way around and make their way to the back of the queue. We've still got Vulcan, well, basically, Buck 57 and Big Sam are almost there. Vulcan is closing in pretty rapidly. Magico also. Then we've got a bit of a gap to Slam and Dirkleton, who will, I imagine, catch up at the end of the, well, probably midway through the next lap, actually. Then the safety car will peel in, and then we will have only 2 laps of racing here in Qatar to decide the winner and everything in between. Fasten your seatbelts. It's going to be a bumpy ride here in the desert. It's been ferocious fun so far. All I beg of you is that you keep it clean. Please don't crash. Actually, it's blackout. Why have I said that? Only one car's going to finish the race now. And before you ask, yes, of course it will be Magico that finishes this race and wins. Let me cook. Still trundling around behind the Mercedes AMG. It's been a faultless drive from Timmelele. so far on those medium tyres at the start of the race. Ran them for a long time, went onto the hards. It was the right call to make. Had the answers to the pace of the medium tyres eventually. Now the safety car is here. He's got one more piece of that puzzle to complete to really ascertain himself back at the forefront. Dropping back from the safety car a little bit. Dirkleton, the only car left not to be on the back of the queue. He's pit onto soft tyres. So he's got now fresh soft tyres. And Slam better be feeling pretty squiffy about that one. Through the double right-hander they go. I say they, that man is Dirkleton. Running at basically qualifying pace to get to the back of the safety car. It's a vision that probably should be exploited in race pace as well. But there we are. Through the right-hander goes the Red Bull. Soon enough, he'll be on the back of the safety car queue. And there we go. I was going to say, you're kidding me. It's not going to be in on this lap. It is in on this lap. We only have 2 laps of racing. And Thanasi pulling a Max Verstappen and Timmelele not taking kindly to it. That was a bit rude. Oh my gosh, he's got a tag. Oh, it's poetry. It's absolute poetry. Although, when he was alongside, I think turning into him probably wasn't a smart idea, given how the penalty system goes. Well, maybe Thanasi was exploiting the penalty system. Who knows? Either way, very, very smart. Safety car has just peeled into the pit lane. It's up to Timmelele now to pull the trigger and decide when to deploy all the power of the engine. It's time to go. Ladies and gentlemen, 2 laps of racing of Qatar to decide the winner and all things in between. Wide goes Maximus. Stark's got another time penalty. It's all happening immediately. Slipstream for the Williams driver as he deploys every ounce of electrical energy. Faints to the inside. Won't find a move there. Not at this current moment in time. Tim with that 10-second time penalty. Ultimately, he'll probably rally for it to get removed. We shall see what the stewards say. But Pathiman and Buck 20 are going into combat. Round the outside went Buck 20. Pathiman now trying to find a way through. Look to have the inside line right in his clutches. But Jamie Tarquin cuts that corner very aggressively. Compromises his momentum. Stark says thank you very much. As does Buck 57. Through they go. Big Sam goes through as well. Jamie Tarquin practically concedes defeat, bless him. It's not the way he would have wanted it to go, but alas, that is the way the cookie has crumbled. Timmelele, all I can say is I'm sorry for cursing you. That is all I can say. Slam and Vulcan having a nice little scrap. Through goes to Kick Sauber on the older medium compound tyres. 3-second time penalty again for Buck 57. I have no idea who's finishing where. Jamie Tarquin's got a drive-through, so I can only assume he's going to be out of this race before too long. Magico gets a time penalty. There's only 3 now who don't have time penalties. As Thanasi actually concedes, I think, to Milo and I think to J-Lane. Down the inside, they both go. Because Timmelele with that 10-second time penalty, whatever the case, Thanasi doesn't really have to fight it. He knows that no matter what he does now, he will finish P4 and no higher. So it doesn't really matter what he does, whether he overtakes Timmelele. For pride's sake, you'll want to do that. But at the end of the day, to just remain in P4, that's all he needs to do. Could have been P2 as well, unbelievably. If that penalty doesn't get removed, I imagine it will, because it does seem very harsh. But if it doesn't get removed, then what a twist. What a crazy conundrum the championship leader has for himself this week. Lackadaisical at Hungary. Absolutely launched up the grid here. But a 10-second time penalty for a severe collision means an otherwise faultless race is not gonna come to fruition. Through the final few corners. And I imagine it will be investigated. I imagine it should be removed. It all seemed a little bit hairy. But through the final corner, Timmelele has drove pristinely, will weave across the line. He knows he's won it on the road. Milo will inherit the win here in Qatar. Across the line. And Terziak takes the fastest lap on the last lap of the Grand Prix to take 3 crucial points for his standings. Oh, massive crash. Oh, the Ferrari and the Aston Martin had a huge moment. Oh, it's devastating. You just don't want to see it. That's terror for Terziak. By the way, results are mad. Thanassi's P4, Pathiman's P5, Tim P6, even with that 10-second time penalty. Big Sam P7, he was the one that died across the line. We've then got Maximus in 8th. Dirkleton finished 9th in all of that. Oh my god. Like I said, can't even calculate who's going to finish where. Just let the penalties cook. Driver of the day goes to J-Lane then. And when all things said and done, I mean, he did get P2. So, I mean, you know. Probably deserves it. Back on the podium for Mr. J-Lane. It will be second or third. It's a podium for the V-Card man either way. It's a podium for Milo. Potentially a win for Timmelele, depending on how decisions go. But either way, Milo can savour the sweet feeling of glory today. At least on this podium. He will raise the trophy aloft. An awkwardly long handshake later. Up to the heavens. Fantastic. Dirk got P9 at the end. Classic Blackout. Listen, Blackout don't miss. That's all I'm saying. Blackout knows how to put on a show. The entertainment capital beckoned for them last week. And they were the best show in town. Today, they have done much the same. And I can't get to look at the results. Because I'm not allowed fun. Thanks, Codemasters. Very cool. But I can tell you, it was Milo, J-Lane, and Terziak on the podium. Thanassi in P4. Pathiman ended up finishing P5. What a legend. You're very welcome, Brady. No problem at all. I hope you enjoyed. Gotta love a bit of Blackout chaos. A bit of spice to your life. What a fantastic display. Well, there you go. That sort of turned things on its head then. Let's summarise the week. It really has become tremendously topsy-turvy. At the Hungary ring, championship leader Timmelele, don't know what happened, reverse grid, could hardly make progress, ended up finishing P11 on the road. Thanassi, closest challenger though, got the win. Stayed out on the intermediate tyres. The right call in the end. It's just too little too late for the dry tyres. Was some complimentary fastest lap points for Timmelele, but ultimately, something like a 22-point slice into the championship cushion. And that is quite substantial. So, there's that. And then came Qatar, where ultimately Timmelele needed to respond. And so he did. He absolutely did respond. Took the win on the road. A seemingly dubious 10-second penalty for basically a small paper cut. But ultimately, probably will be investigated. And then we shall see what fruit is brought from that. Either way, it is still a slight gain in the championship for Thanassi as we are finished with our pre-penultimate week. It is now 2 weeks to go. And where do we head, might we be asking? That sound in the background you can hear was Timmelele's lead being blended at the Hungary ring. But luckily, he kept viscous enough to remain at the forefront in the desert. But the calendar, ladies and gentlemen, where do you even begin? Where do you even begin? Next week, of course, last week of Real F1 of the season, 2024. What a year it's been. Multiple winners galore. Lewis Hamilton won 2 races this season. Then Mercedes decided to give him a new spec and keep testing it, even though they knew it was worse. But realistically, we all know why. We all know why they did it. And you can't convince anyone otherwise. But there you go. That doesn't take away from George Russell. He has been driving very well. But ultimately, you do have to question when you can tell the new spec didn't work. Why keep it? Just saying. Portimao and Abu Dhabi is next week. No trickaroos there. No sordid surprises. It's just normal 35%, 50% show. And then the final week on the 16th of December, 9 days from Christmas. Who will be leaving with the festive feeling of furious victory? All will be revealed as we then head to Canada for a reverse grid race. And then Japan for the finale of the Blackout Season 17 show. But that is all to come. There we go, ladies and gentlemen. At the Hungaroring, one man hounded the rest and wreaked havoc. That man was Tanasi. And in Qatar, it was just chaos. Everyone got penalties, pretty much. Only a few managed to keep their nose clean, and they benefited the most. But Timmelele ultimately won it on the track, and we'll see what happens in the stewards' room. But Milo, nonetheless, congratulations to you for taking the win tonight, in any case. And also, to Mr. Terziak, and of course Mr. J-Lane. P2, P3, he's going to be on the podium anyway. A slight dent into the championship gap, though, just to spruce things up a tiny bit. But next time out, when the Blackout Bonanza returns, we hope to see you there, because it will be absolutely astonishing. Thank you very much for watching another round of the Blackout series. If you did enjoy, consider giving a follow. KarlsCars, little follow button down there. Please go and follow it. Also, subscribe to my YouTube. KarlsCars, I'm watching you. Go do it now. I will find your ISP. Don't know what kind of threat that is, but you never know. Go and subscribe to that channel. It has everything Blackout related and a playlist called Commentary. And
Get
that is a
in there,
fun
Lewis.
time. Oh!
Miracles do happen, mate.
The ISP threat worked! Yes! Thank you, Joe, mate. Appreciate it. Welcome along to the Blackout Show. I say welcome along. You've been in the Blackout Show for ages. But welcome along to the KarlsCars channel. I'm glad you enjoyed it. Anywho, what remains for me to say? Like I say, enjoy it, follow, subscribe, all the rest. I don't even know what to say anymore. We'll be back next Monday, same time, 8 PM, for the penultimate round of the penultimate week of the season. It's going to be an enthralling spectacle. So join me there, here, 8 PM, or if you're watching this on my channel as a rerun, happy Easter. Good to see you. Thank you so much to Blackout for allowing me to commentate. As always, here comes the SOP. You lot are amazing. I absolutely love Blackout to pieces. They are the reason I do what I do today, whether it's with St. Albans, Creator Series, FO5 Esports. The Monday show is what I live and breathe for. It's an absolute joy, and I would rather be doing nothing else. I wouldn't rather do anything else. Words? Don't know them. Probably not great in the commentary box. But it's what it's the flurry of furious problems I'm experiencing anyway. Either way, big love to you, Blackout. Blackout does not miss. It is the best out there. And I'm not biased. I'm just a man in the commentary box. But there you are. Consider following some very, very fun people. Magico made all of these graphics, like I said earlier, that you can see here, from the standby to the ending screen that you'll see, to the calendar even. He made all of those. Go and follow him, RD Magico, on Twitch, or subscribe to him, Magico834, on an internet, on a YouTube. Go there. Also, J-Lane has some old Blackout stuff. J-Land 3 from Season 15. I wonder what happened that season. No? No? No one? Okay, well, just me. Guess you'll have to find out for yourself. Go and check it out there. I'm sure it was a very fun time indeed. But until next time on the Blackout Show, on next Monday, I thank you so much for watching. Have a wonderful, wonderful rest of your day. And until next time, big love to you all. And goodbye.